Dan Goldman is the Democratic all-star from New York who has become so good at calling out Republicans for their attacks on our democracy, their attacks on the FBI, and their attacks on the Biden administration. Now, in this next clip, Dan Goldman takes on Eli Crane of Arizona and Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia. Both are mega morons who are doing everything they can to paint the picture that the FBI is somehow this democratic-leaning government institution that has been weaponized by the Biden administration.
First, let's talk about the Durham report. I'll make it real short for you, Ms. Murphy. The Durham report seemed to fail to consider the fact that the original tip that set off the Crossfire Hurricane investigation was that Russia would be disseminating hacked emails about related that would help Donald Trump. And lo and behold, at the end of July, that's exactly what happened. So the Durham report focused solely on what was internally within the intelligence files of the FBI and did not mention the obvious corroboration that the tip turned out to be true. Second, the Durham report said that an investigation was justified to be opened. It should have just been a preliminary investigation as opposed to a full investigation. Third, the Durham report talks all about the Steele dossier, which had nothing to do with the origination of the Russia investigation and had nothing to do with the Mueller investigation. It was not relied on. That investigation, of course, led to, I believe, 6 individuals connected to the Trump campaign who were convicted, whereas the Durham report, the Durham investigation, had 1 guilty plea by someone who was referred from the Office of Inspector General and 2 acquittals on pretty pathetic charges. So let's get our facts straight about the Durham report. Second, I want to address what my colleague from Arizona was saying about the FBI whistleblowers. I was actually in that hearing last week. He was not. And what I can tell you about those individuals is, separate and apart from whether they are whistleblowers or not, they were deemed by the FBI to be national security risks because one allowed his own personal views of January 6th to affect his official duties by not turning over to his superior open source information that ultimately led a different agent to determine that a subject was actually at the Capitol committing violence on January 6th. Second, another special agent decided that he was the legal expert on what a legitimate grand jury subpoena was and was not, and refused to serve a grand jury subpoena on a witness that had been issued by the grand jury with the support of a federal prosecutor and his supervisory agent, and yet he decided that he knew best, and so he refused to do that. These people, my colleague wants to talk about being a partisan tool, I think, is what he used. Sadly, and perhaps unwittingly, the partisan tool here is someone who is Donald Trump's henchman funding these witnesses to try to diminish and undermine the FBI. And why are they trying to diminish and undermine the FBI at Donald Trump's direction and behest? Because the FBI is investigating Donald Trump. That is what we're doing here. That is why, and I see my colleague from Georgia, who I'm sure is waved on to this committee.
The committee will suspend. I would advise members that under Clause 1 of Rule 17 of the Rules of the House, they must observe the House standards of decorum and debate and conduct. They must act and speak respectfully and may not use disorderly words, unparliamentary language, such as words impugning the motives of their colleagues or words that are partially or personally offensive. Gentlemen, yield back to the gentleman from New York.
Could I have my minute back since you suspended?
Yes, the time was approximately 1 minute and 15, 1 minute and 20.
Thank you. Appreciate it. So why are my colleagues trying to undermine the FBI? Why are they asking to defund the FBI? It is not because the FBI is not doing its job. It's because the FBI is doing its job. And the problem they have is that the FBI is doing its job in investigating their dear leader, Donald Trump. And if you can undermine the investigator, if you can undermine independent journalists doing investigative reporting, then you can undermine our entire system of democracy. That is the authoritarian playbook 101. You attack the democratic institutions, you attack the independent, objective individuals who provide checks and balance in a democracy, and then, rather than follow the law and the rules, you can violate the law and the rules because there's no one with any credibility who can hold you in check. So do you want to know the reason why the FBI is going down in its credibility? It's because it's being attacked by people on the other side of the aisle, and that has to stop. I yield back.
Dan Goldman making it look easy there just by simply stating the facts. And when you have people like Eli Crane, who is this new mega moron coming out of Arizona, and Marjorie Taylor Greene trying to do everything they can to tear down the Biden administration and the FBI, it's vital that you have people like Dan Goldman, who is capable of going out there and very easily explaining the truth to people. The henchman that he was talking about, he didn't refer to him by name, but that's Kash Patel, who in a previous hearing just within the past couple weeks, Goldman asked these witnesses if Kash Patel gave them money, and sure enough, he gave these whistleblowers money, which, you know, fits right into the authoritarian playbook that he was talking about. That's, you find people who were laid off from government positions, the FBI, you pay them to tell the story how the FBI has become this weaponized branch of the government, when in fact they just broke protocol and it violated the FBI and their terms of service, if you will. So Dan Goldman spitting the truth, absolutely necessary when we see that these mega Republicans, these mega Trumpers are out there doing everything they can to attack our democracy.